All right, let's get right into it. We hear about rare earth elements, or REEs, all the time. They're basically the essential vitamins for our entire green revolution. They're the secret sauce that makes everything from an EV motor to a wind turbine actually work. But with this new gold rush heating up, you have to ask, who's actually getting rich?
Think about it for a second. Your typical electric car needs what? A couple of kilos of these super powerful magnets? That journey starts with someone literally digging dirt out of the ground, and it ends with a piece of high-tech machinery. So somewhere along that chain, where is the real money being made? You'd think it's the miners, right? They're the ones doing the digging.
Well, you'd be wrong. It turns out the most obvious answer isn't the right one. The real profit isn't in the ground at all. The story is way more complicated and, honestly, a lot more interesting than that.
To really understand this, we have to follow the money. We've got to trace the value chain from start to finish. And when you do that, you find this massive choke point, a place where just a handful of players are capturing almost all of the profit.
It basically breaks down into 3 stages. First, you've got the upstream. That's the digging, the actual mining part. Then you have the midstream. This is the super complex, super difficult chemical process of refining and separating all these different elements. And finally, you get to the downstream, which is where those pure elements get turned into the things we actually use, like powerful magnets.
Now, this is where it gets really eye-opening. If you imagine there's $100 of value being created, look at how it's split. The miners, the ones digging the stuff up, they see maybe $8 of that. The critical refining stage gets about 25. But look at that huge slice of the pie. A staggering 67% of the profit is made in that final manufacturing stage.
And this just spells out the economics perfectly. Mining is super high risk, incredibly expensive, and you get a tiny margin for it. But down at the other end of the chain, you have companies, like Japan's Shinitsu, that perform what is basically industrial alchemy. They take $100 worth of that refined oxide powder and turn it into $1,000 worth of high-tech magnets. That's a 10 times value jump.
Okay, so if all the real money is in manufacturing, why isn't everyone just doing that? Well, the answer lies in that middle step, that refining process. That is the choke point. And it's a choke point that China has spent decades cornering, effectively making itself the landlord for the entire world.
Just look at these projected numbers for 2026. It's insane. China controls 90% of the world's refining capacity. 90%! That means almost every company in the West that's building an EV or a wind turbine has to, one way or another, pay rent to China just to get the materials they need to operate.
This quote just nails it. This isn't just a business strategy. It's about geopolitics. It's about leverage. By completely dominating that midstream, China holds the keys to the entire green revolution. They get to dictate the price and control the supply of the most fundamental technologies of our century.
But the West is finally trying to buy its way out of this lease. In 2026, the US government kicked off a massive new program, something designed to break this dependency once and for all. They're calling it Project Vault.
And the idea behind it is actually pretty simple, but it's really powerful. You know how the US stockpiles oil in the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to guard against supply shocks? Well, Project Vault is meant to do the exact same thing, but for rare earths.
And they are putting some serious cash behind this. We are talking about a $12 billion investment. Let that sink in. This is not some small pilot program. This is a massive strategic bet on building a secure supply chain outside of China.
So here's the most crucial part, its real function. Let's say China tries to flood the market with cheap rare earths to drive Western competitors out of business. Project Vault would step in and buy up the surplus from Western miners. It creates a price floor, a safety net, guaranteeing that companies like MP Materials here in the US can stay profitable and that their investors don't get totally wiped out. It's an economic shield.
And because of this new strategic focus, the whole global map of rare earths is starting to look different. We're finally seeing new players and new projects pop up that are specifically designed to operate outside of China's influence.
And you can see some of them here. Over in Australia, you've got Iluka Resources building the first major fully integrated refinery outside of China. Then there's Lindian Resources in Malawi sitting on what people are calling the crown jewel deposit in all of Africa. Back home in the US, USA Rare Earth is making the smart play. They're moving into the high-margin magnet business. And a lot of eyes are now on Greenland, where companies like Dalaru Metals think they might have found the next Saudi Arabia of rare earths.
All of this new activity is being supercharged by just insane levels of demand.
But all that demand is also forcing us to look for new places to get these materials, including one that's been right under our noses the whole time.
The growth is just staggering. The whole market is on track to double by 2033. Just the demand for magnets from electric vehicles is going to triple. And all these offshore wind farms we're building, they're creating a huge supply gap for a critical element called dysprosium. All of this pressure has given birth to a totally new market, the urban mine.
So what is an urban mine? Well, it's not about digging in the dirt. It's about large-scale industrial recycling. Companies are now building facilities to literally pull rare earth magnets out of old computer hard drives, junked electronics, and old EV motors. And this isn't just good for the environment, it's incredibly lucrative. The sector is projected to grow at over 28% every single year.
Okay, so after all that, after following the money, breaking down the geopolitics, and looking at where the demand is headed, who are the real winners in this 21st century gold rush?
Well, it's definitely not the miners. The real money, the real power, flows to three groups that are often hidden in plain sight. First, China's state-owned giants. For them, it's not about profit this quarter, it's about industrial control for the next 50 years. Second, you have the specialty chemical companies. Think patent holders like Shin-Etsu in Japan or Solvay in France. They basically get a royalty on almost every magnet made on Earth. And third, there's a whole new category, the national security grantees. These are the Western companies that are being kept in the game not by the free market, but by strategic government funding.
At the end of the day, this whole thing shows us that the race for rare earths was never really about digging special rocks out of the ground. It is a high-stakes global battle for control over the entire industrial supply chain of the 21st century. And when you look at the whole playing field, the real question is, who's betting on the right winner?